Thank you. The Committee on Finance will come to order for its 1:30 p.m. agenda today, April 1st, in conference room 308. Thank you so much. So first up on the agenda, we have Senate Bill 973 SD1 HD2 relating to Hawaii Money Transmitter Act. First up we have for that signed up on Zoom is Commissioner Iris Ikeda, DCCA. Okay. That's all the individuals indicating they would be on Zoom. Members, any questions on Senate Bill 973? Thank you. Moving on to the next measure, Senate Bill 1204 SD2 HD2 relating to tax appeals. First up we have signed up is Department of Taxation.
Good afternoon, Vice Chair, Chair, members of the committee. Ted Shiraishi for the Department of Taxation, and we stand on our testimony in support. Thank you.
Thank you, Ted. Next is Tax Foundation Hawaii, Tom Yamachika.
Thank you, Vice Chair, Chair, members of the committee. Tom Yamachika from Tax Foundation of Hawaii. Will stand on written comments, be available for questions.
Thank you, Tom. Okay, that's all the individuals indicating on Zoom. Members, any questions on Senate Bill 1204? Representative Kobayashi.
For Tax Department, do you intend to have just one board, one panel?
Right. I think the purpose of this measure is to kind of consolidate the board into one so that we can meet quorum. In the past, I guess, at least since I've been here, in the last 10 years, we've had a hard time filling each of the boards.
But wait, no, I think the problem here is that you're requiring a minimum of 3 people to convene, but then you have a 10-member, what looks like a single board, not able to split apart into separate panels.
I guess we've never looked at it from that perspective. I think the point of having a maximum of 10 members is to allow the appointment of 10 members and then with a minimum of 3 so that they can convene meetings. We've never thought about breaking it up since the problem is the separate boards.
So will one board be able to handle the statewide load?
Well, one board that has continuous quorum probably could. The problem is in like, I think Maui and Kauai, I think we haven't had quorum in several years. So even if we had one board with that was hearing cases all year round, I think we'd be in a better place than we are currently.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Members, any other questions? Okay, thank you. Moving on to the next measure, Senate Bill 1196 SD2 relating to withholding tax. First up, we have Department of Taxation.
Thank you, Vice Chair, Chair, members of the committee. The department stands on its written testimony in support.
Thank you. Next is Tom Yamachika with Tax Foundation of Hawaii.
Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Tom Yamachika from Tax Foundation. We will stand in our testimony providing comments and be available for questions.
Thank you. Those are the only individuals indicating to be on Zoom. Members, any questions? All right. Thank you. Next measure, we have Senate Bill 1198 SD2 HD1 relating to tax administration. Department of Taxation.
Thank you, Vice Chair, Chair, members of the committee. Ted Shiraishi for the Department of Taxation again, and we stand in our written testimony in support. Thank you.
Tax Foundation Hawaii.
Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Tom Yamachika from Tax Foundation. We had expressed some concerns about the size of this tax administration special fund, but I think you guys are rating it anyway, so that should take care of that problem. Thank you very much. I'll be available for questions.
Thank you. That's all the individuals indicating who would be on Zoom. Members, any questions on Senate Bill 1198? Representative Kobayashi.
Tom, did we rate enough money?
I think you guys are taking out $15 million. And I'm not even sure if the 2021 balance has that. So I think that's plenty.
Thank you.
Okay, members, any other questions? Okay, next measure, Senate Bill 1202 SD1 HD2. Relating to taxation. First up is Department of Taxation.
Thank you, Vice Chair, Chair, members of the committee. Ted Shirashi for the Department of Taxation, and we stand on our written testimony in support. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Tax Foundation of Hawaii.
Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Tom Yamachika from Tax Foundation. We'll stand on a written testimony. We do recognize this as technical.
Thank you. Okay, that's all the individuals indicating they would be on Zoom. Members, any questions on Senate Bill 1202? Okay, thank you. Moving on to the next measure, Senate Bill 1203 SD1 HD1 relating to Title 14 Hawaii Revised Statute. And first up, we have no one indicating they'd be on Zoom. Members, any questions? Okay,
Sir, I did sign up, and I do seem to be on the list here. So
for 1203?
3, yes.
Okay. Okay, yes. Tax Foundation Hawaii.
Thank you, Vice Chair, Chair, members of the committee. Tom Yamachika from Tax Foundation. We have submitted written comments. We'll stand on those. We do note that some of the amendments in this version of the bill duplicate those in the one previously heard. So at some point, these would have to be reconciled. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Ted, I know you did submit testimony. Was Department of Taxation going to make any comments?
I think we submitted as written only, but no, we were just going to stand anyway, Vice Chair. Thank you.
Okay, I just was asking since you guys ran.
Thank you.
So, just being kind. All right. Okay, that's all the individuals indicating they would be on Zoom. Members, any questions for Senate Bill 1203? Okay, thank you. Moving on to the next measure, Senate Bill 167 SD1 HD2 relating to the state plan. And then first up, we have Department of Land and Natural Resources, David Smith. Okay, moving on to the next one, Office of Planning.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. My name is Danielle Bass, State Sustainability Coordinator from the Office of Planning. Happy Earth Month. We stand in strong support of this measure, and I'm available for any questions you may have. Mahalo.
Okay, thank you. Okay, that's all the individuals indicating they would be on Zoom. Members,
Sorry, this is Heather McMillan from DLNR standing in for Dave Smith. I had some trouble with my mute button there. Just
Okay.
noting that we stand on our written testimony in support.
Okay, thank you. Okay, that's
Thank
all the individuals indicating they would be on Zoom. Members, any questions? Okay, moving on to the next measure, Senate Bill 222 SD1 HD1 related to the Department of Accounting and General Services. First up is Department of Accounting and General Services.
Good afternoon, Vice Chair, Chair, members of the committee. Audrey Downer, Deputy for DAGS. We support the intent and offer lots of comments. I'll be here and my accounting administrator will be here should there be any questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That's all the individuals indicating they'd be on Zoom. Members, any questions? Okay. Moving on to the next measure, Senate Bill 1035 SD2 HD1 related to procurement. First up is State Procurement Office.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Bonnie Kahakui for the State Procurement Office, Acting Administrator. We stand in strong support of this bill. Mahalo.
Thank you. Department of Transportation.
Good afternoon, Vice Chair, Chair, and members of the committee. Jade Butai for DOT. We humbly stand on our testimony in support of the intent. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Subcontractors Association of Hawaii.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. we are not necessarily opposed to this bill. However, it remains unclear as to what the fee would be that the administrator will be authorized to charge under the terms of this bill. We do note that House Standing Committee Report 1081 says it would be less than 1%, but that's in the STANCOM. It is not enumerated at all in the bill. We do appreciate the fact that this may be a good concept. However, it certainly would be nice to know how the fee will be charged, when it will be charged, and who it will be charged to, and what the amount would be prior to its enactment. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, that's all the individuals indicating they would be on Zoom. Members, any questions? Representative Kobayashi.
Can the office answer question from Tim Lyons? What will be the fee charge?
Thank you for the question. We don't know at this time. We currently have a solicitation out for a new procurement automation system, starting with phase 1, which is our e-marketplace, which will support or fund the rest of the e-procurement system. So we really can't say at the present time. We did our due diligence and homework, and other states and other vendors have offered similar products between 0.75% and a 1% fee. So at this time, we really can't pinpoint the exact answer. We do know that is the industry going rate as of this moment.
Can you give us an idea? I assume it'll be in the 7 digits. To
the administration fee?
yes.
We currently have an admin fee using our homegrown system of 0.75%. So we hope that we would continue along that same vein, but it really will depend on, again, what the offers have to, how they're going to respond to our solicitation. We will, of course, when we get the proposals, if it's out of line, then we would not, award or go forward with that. So we are cognizant of the impact that it could have on vendors.
Do you expect to have a special fund pay the entire amount of the new system upfront?
It is self-funded. And so the first phase is our e-marketplace phase, at which point the vendors, the awarded contractor will charge a vendor collected admin fee to pay for the implementation and upkeep. Once that ceiling is hit, we do want to have a special fund to put in the, for better word, excess funds to build out the rest of the e-procurement system. So it'll be totally self-funded without general funds.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Representative Kobayashi, okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Members, any other questions? Thank you. Moving on to the next measure, Senate Bill 406 SD1 HD1 relating to campaign spending commission staff. First up, we have Campaign Spending Commission. Gary Cam.
Good afternoon, Vice Chair, Chair, members of the committee. My name is Gary Cam, and I'm here on behalf of the commission. The commission will stand on its written testimony and support. Thank you.
Okay. That's all the individuals indicating they would be on Zoom. Members, any questions? Senate Bill 406. Representative Kobayashi.
For the commission, it looks like the tail is wagging the dog here. Because if a complaint is initiated by the commission per the law, that complaint must be signed by the executive director. Shouldn't there be an added phrase to the sentence to be amended so that the signing could be done by the executive director of the commission or an officer of the commission?
Because of the wording in the present law, and we just wanted to make clear that staff can conduct the day-to-day operations of the commission without needing a vote by the commission before doing these day-to-day tasks. We didn't contemplate having a member of the commission, a commission member signing complaints. The way the current law is set up, and I didn't think we were changing that, is that all the commission complaints are signed by the executive director only.
Has a complaint ever been initiated by the commission?
No.
No. Why is that in statute then?
Well, why is one in statute that the commission's complaint shall be signed by the executive director?
Yep.
Yeah, so essentially staff, what we do is on behalf of the commission. And so any complaint, any order, that would be, the commissions don't prepare those by themselves, but it would be on their behalf. The commission signs orders though, the chair.
Thank you.
Thank you. Members, any other questions? Okay, moving on to the next measure. Senate Bill 405 SD1 HD1 relating to campaign contributions. Campaign Spending Commission, first up.
Noon, Vice Chair, chair members of the committee, the commission stands on its written testimony.
Thank you. Next is Common Cause Hawaii, Sandy Ma.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee, Sandy Ma for Common Cause Hawaii. We stand in our written testimony in support of SB 405 SD1 HD1 with suggested amendments. Thank you, and I'm available for any questions.
Thank you. That's all the individuals indicating they would be on Zoom for this measure. Members, any questions on Senate Bill 405? Thank you. Moving on to the next measure, Senate Bill 402 HD1 relating to reimbursement for expenditures by committees. First up, we have Campaign Spending Commission, Gary Cam.
Good afternoon, Vice Chair, chair, members of the committee. The commission stands on its written testimony and support. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Common Cause Hawaii, Sandy Ma.
Good afternoon again, Sandy Ma for Common Cause Hawaii. We stand in our written testimony in support of SB 402 HD1, and I'm available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, that's the last of the individuals indicating they would be on Zoom testifying. Members, any questions for Senate Bill 402? Okay, thank you. Moving to the next measure, Senate Bill 400 SD1 HD1 relating to campaign finance report. And first up, we have Campaign Spending Commission.
Good afternoon, Vice Chair, chair, members of the committee. The commission is in support of this bill, but we would urge the committee to restore the language in the bill as originally introduced in the Senate. We should restore the 10 days in lines 5, 7, 10, and 12. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Common Cause Hawaii, Sandy Ma.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee, Sandy Ma for Common Cause Hawaii. We stand on our written testimony in support of SB 400 SD1 HD1. We also ask this committee to restore the original language of the bill, which required that the preliminary, general, or special reports are due 10 calendar days before such elections. Thank you, and I'm available to answer any questions.
Thank you. That's all the individuals indicating they would be testifying over Zoom. Members, any questions on Senate Bill 400? Okay, thank you. Moving on to the next measure, Senate Bill 401 HD1 relating to violations of campaign finance law. First up is Campaign Spending Commission, Gary Cam.
Good afternoon, Vice Chair, chair, members of the committee. The commission will stand on its written testimony and support. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Common Cause Hawaii, Sandy Ma.
Good afternoon again. Sandy Ma for Common Cause Hawaii. We stand on our written testimony in support of SB 401 HD1. Thank you. And I'm available to answer any questions.
Thank you. Members, any questions on Senate Bill 401 HD1? Okay, thank you. Okay, moving on to the next measure. We have Senate Bill 560 HD2 relating to ranked choice voting. And first up, we have League of Women Voters of Hawaii. Janet Mason.
Thank you, Vice Chair Cullen. Chair Luke, members of the committee, the League submitted comments on this bill. We are very interested in it. We are not quite ready to take a position pro or con. Happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Janet. Next, we have Common Cause Hawaii, Sandy.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. We stand on our written testimony in support of SB 560 HD1. Ranked choice voting was used successfully in the Democratic Party primary presidential preference poll. We feel like it could be deployed here in these limited special elections. We ask for an effective date upon approval for this measure, and I'm available to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that's all the individuals indicating they would be testifying over Zoom. Members, any questions? Okay, moving on to the next measure. We have Senate Bill 421 SD1 HD1 relating to vacancies. First up, we have Office of Elections, Scott Nagel.
Thank you. The Office of Elections will stand on its written testimony providing comments and will be here to answer any questions.
Thank you. That's all the individuals indicating they would be testifying over Zoom. Members, any questions on Senate Bill 421? Representative Kobayashi.
Scott, how much would it cost to run a special election?
So on page 2 of our testimony, we have the cost. It just depends on which type of election. It can range from a U.S. Senate election all the of 2.3 million all the way down to a state rep of $223,000.
And of course, you don't have that kind of money.
No.
And how would you fund it?
So in the past, when we had to do a special election, I believe it was in 2010, we had to get an emergency appropriation from the legislature.
I see. The problem is that there seems to be no way of anticipating if there would be need for a special election, I think.
No. Yeah, no.
How much time would be needed? To do a special election? 70 days, you said?
Yes, but it also, it's a timing issue. So it is approximately 70 days.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, members, any other questions on Senate Bill 421? Okay, moving on to the next measure, Senate Bill 159 SD1 HD1 relating to voting. We have Office of Elections.
Thank you. The Office of Elections will stand on its written testimony in support and be available for any questions.
We have Department of Transportation. Jade.
Mahalo, Vice Chair. We stand on our submitted written testimony in support with amendments.
Thank you. Okay. Next, we have LGBT Caucus of Democratic Party of Hawaii, Michael Goloyi Jr. Not present. We have League of Women Voters of Hawaii. Janet.
The League stands on our written testimony in support.
Thank you. We have Hawaii Health and Harm Reduction Center. Nikos Leverens. Next is ACLU of Hawaii. Hope.
Yeah. Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. My name is Hope Kirpelman. I'm the Legal and Legislative Fellow with the ACLU of Hawaii. Thank you for the opportunity to testify. The ACLU of Hawaii strongly supports this bill. The United States is one of the only countries in the world that requires voters to register and also places the burden on the voters to register themselves. This is a major reason why voter turnout in the US is relatively low. This bill would streamline the voter registration process and make our elections more accessible. Voting is the foundation of our democracy and a fundamental right that protects all of our other civil rights and civil liberties. As a result, the legislature should seek to increase public participation in elections in whatever ways possible. This bill will not force anyone to vote or to register. It will only help facilitate registration for eligible voters, update the rolls, especially voters' addresses, and ultimately lead to more efficient and cost-saving elections. We strongly support this measure as we believe it would promote maximum participation in the democratic process and enable more free and fair elections as a result. Otherwise, we will stand on our written testimony. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Next, we have Common Cause Hawaii.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Sandy Ma, testifying on behalf of Common Cause Hawaii, and also the broad coalition of AVR Hawaii, and also testifying as a community member for Hawaii Women's Coalition. We three organizations stand in strong support of opt-in AVR SB 159 SD1 HD1. Thank you for scheduling this important measure for a hearing today. We will stand on our written testimony and support and just ask that the effective date of this bill be January 1 of 2020. I'm available to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have AARP Hawaii.
Good afternoon, Vice Chair, Chair, members of the committee, Audrey Suga Nakagawa, ARP Hawaii. We stand on our testimony in strong support. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Hope Services Hawaii. Kristen Alice.
Aloha. Aloha. Thank you. My name is Kristen Alice, and I'm representing Hope Services. We are the largest homeless services provider on Hawaii Island, and we're here to strongly support SB 159 for automatic voter registration. Last year, I helped organize a voter registration drive at our shelters, and we're on Hawaii Island, so we had several shelters around the island. And it was a big to-do. We were driving around, we had to coordinate with several different staff members. We had to have them coordinate with the residents of the shelter. We had to have multiple visits and phone calls to the Office of Elections. We made posters informing people that they were eligible to combat the misinformation that they are not allowed to vote. And we had our staff members driving around all over the island, bringing lock boxes and picking up registrations and just assisting people with the process. And it made me ask myself, why does this population have to jump through so many more hoops to register than people who are privileged enough to have internet access and a home and an address and an ID do? And we have the chance now to change that. And this is amazing because this bill will save money and at the same time bring more people into the community. And especially importantly, bringing in the voices of the people who should be at the forefront of shaping homelessness policies, because they've experienced it and they can tell us what works, what doesn't, what's going to be most effective. And this is an easy, simple, and cheap way to bring those people in and to make sure democracy is accessible to all of us. So I would humbly ask for your support for this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, members, I saw the testimony over Zoom. Members, any questions for Senate Bill 159? Okay, thank you. Moving on to the next measure, Senate Bill 548 SD1 HD1. Before I can start with could I ask the testifiers over Zoom to please mute yourself until you are called to testify. So please check your mute buttons. I can hear feedback. With that, I will start off with Office of Elections.
Good afternoon. The Office of Elections will stand on its written testimony and support and be available for any questions.
Thank you. Next, we have Attorney General's Office. Lori.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee, Lori Tanigawa, Deputy Attorney General. The Department of the Attorney General submitted written testimony in which we're asking the committee to consider making 2 amendments to the bill. I'm available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have LGBT Caucus of the Democratic Party of Hawaii, Michael Goloyu Jr. Okay. Next, we have League of Women Voters of Hawaii, Janet Mason.
Thank you, Vice Chair Cullen. Chair Luke, members of the committee, the League supports this bill. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Next, we have Common Cause Hawaii.
Good afternoon, Sandy Ma for Common Cause Hawaii. We support this bill. SB 548 SD1 HD1, you have our comments on this matter. They are kind of long. We do want to draw attention to one provision of this bill, which is provision, let me see, provision 24, section 24 of SB 548 SD1 HD1. This provides that one voter service center is required in each county to be open 10 days prior to election day during regular hours until closing on election day. And that's all the requirement that is required in this measure. That is kind of concerning given what we saw in the 2020 elections, that there is a desire for in-person voting options. No other guidance is given to the clerks for the opening and citing of voter service centers. And there's no assurance that the clerks will provide additional in-person services. Section 24 of this measure only provides that the clerks may open additional voter service centers for hours that are needed in their jurisdiction. So there's no guidance as to the hours, locations, or numbers. We ask that section 47 of this measure be turned into a requirement that the clerks must follow when they do an analysis as to the requisite number and location of voter service centers and drop boxes to be placed in their areas. Thank you very much, and I'm available to answer any questions.
Thank you. Next, we have AARP Hawaii, Audrey.
Hi, good afternoon again. Audrey Suganakaga from AARP Hawaii. We do stand on our testimony and support, and we echo the same sentiments that was just expressed by Common Cause in regards to Section 24. We do also prefer the language that is in SD1 that provides more descriptive guidelines on the number of additional senior voter service centers. We saw some of the problems in our Kapuna had expressed some difficulty in accessing the limited number of centers in the past election. So having one that is a little more geographical accessible will make it a lot easier, not only for our seniors, but for all voters. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that's all the individuals indicating they would be providing further testimony on Zoom. Members, any questions for Senate Bill 548? Okay. Moving on to the next measure, Senate Bill 225 SD1 HD1 relating to Infrastructure Improvement District. First up, we have Office of Planning.
Thank you, Vice Chair, Chair, and members. The Office of Planning strongly supports SB 225. We believe that it will facilitate state investment in needed TOD infrastructure by allowing HHFDC to recover the costs to help offset the significant upfront cost of regional infrastructure. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is HHFDC, Denise.
Thank you very much, Vice Chair, members of the committee, Denise Matsubara, HHFDC. We stand on our written testimony in support. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. And then Hawaii Interagency Council for Transit-Oriented Development.
Thank you again, Vice Chair. Okay. Denise Matsubara, as co-chair of the TOD Council, we stand on our written testimony in support.
All right, thank you. Okay, that's all the individuals indicated to provide further testimony over Zoom. Members, any questions? Okay. Moving on to the last measure on this agenda, Senate Bill 659 SD2 HD2, relating to low-income housing tax credit. Department of Taxation.
Thank you, Vice Chair, Chair, members of the committee. Ted Shiraishi for the Department of Taxation, and we stand on our written testimony providing comments.
Tax Foundation Hawaii.
Thank you, Vice Chair, Chair, members of the committee. Tom Yamachika from Tax Foundation of Hawaii. We have submitted written testimony and we'll stand on those. I just wanted to highlight that we think the main problem at this point is that the bill appears to be a revenue loser and thus would violate ARPA. If I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Next, we have the Dowling Company, Sandy Wong.
Good afternoon, Vice Chair and Chair and members of the committee. This is Sandy Wong on behalf of Dowling Company. We have submitted written testimony, which we will stand on, and I'm available for questions. Thank you.
Okay. Next, we have Hunt Companies, Hawaii and Hunt Capital Partners, LLC, Lori Lam.
Good afternoon, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Lori Lam on behalf of Hunt Companies, Hawaii and Hunt Capital Partners. We are in support of Senate Bill 659, House Draft 2, and have outlined and asked for your consideration of a couple of amendments. One in particular to reinstate, reinstate the repeal date of December 31st, 2027. And we acknowledge that there are some concerns, and we do want to make sure that this bill would not jeopardize any federally funding, but we do ask that it be kept alive while we're trying to seek that clarification. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you. Okay. Next, we have Sugar Creek Capital, Will Kane.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Will Kane on behalf of Sugar Creek Capital. We stand on our written testimony in support of the measure, along with the amendments detailed by the previous testifier. I would add that we know there are concerns about the loss of federal funding, and that's something that we want to completely avoid, and that conversations continue with the Treasury. But we offered this amendment to ensure there's a way to make the needed changes to Hawaii's LIHTC program without jeopardizing that federal funding. We would also note that Virginia last night just signed into law a brand new LIHTC program. So in light of this, we would ask for you to pass this bill forward with amendments. Mahalo for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you. Members, that's all the individuals indicating they would be testifying for further testimony on Zoom. Members, any questions on Senate Bill 659? All right. Thank you, members. That's the final bill on this agenda. Thank you, testifiers. We will be recessing for decision-making. So the Committee on Finance will stand in recess for decision-making.
Good afternoon, Committee on Finance will come to order. We will be having decision-making on our 1:30 agenda. First up, it is Senate Bill 973 relating to Money Transmitter Act. The recommendation is to pass as is. Any discussion? If not, please take the vote.
Members voting on Senate Bill 973 SE1 HD2, recommendation of the chair is to pass as is. Noting excused member Peruso, who will be excused for the whole agenda. Any members voting reservations? Any members voting no? All present members vote aye. Chair, recommendation adopted.
Thank you very much. Next up is Senate Bill 1204, Senate Draft 2, House Draft 2 relating to tax appeals. Recommendation is to pass as is. Any discussion? If not, please take the vote.
Members voting on Senate Bill 1204 SD2 HD2, recommendation of the chair is to pass as is. Any members voting reservations? Any members voting no? All present members vote aye. Chair, recommendation adopted.
Thank you. Next up is Senate Bill 1196, Senate Draft 2 relating to withholding tax. Recommendation is to pass as a HD1, removing the fee amount and technical non-substantive changes. Any discussion? If not, please take the vote.
Members voting on Senate Bill 1196 SD2, recommendation of the chair is to pass with amendments. Any members voting reservations? Any members voting no? All present members vote aye. Chair, recommendation adopted.
Thank you. Next up is Senate Bill 1198, Senate Draft 2, House Draft 1. This will be deferred. Next bill is Senate Bill 1202, Senate Draft 1, House Draft 2 relating to taxation. Recommendation is to pass as is. Any discussion? If not, please take the vote.
Members voting on Senate Bill 1202 SD1 HD2, recommendation of the chair is to pass as is. Any members voting reservations? Any members voting no? All present members vote aye. Chair, recommendation adopted.
Thank you. Next up is Senate Bill 1203, Senate Draft 1, House Draft 1. Recommendation is to pass as is. Any discussion? If not, please take the vote.
Members voting on Senate Bill 1203 SD1 HD1, recommendation of the chair is to pass as is. Any members voting reservations? Any members voting no? All present members vote aye. Chair, recommendation adopted.
Thank you. Next up is Senate Bill 167, Senate Draft 1, House Draft 2 relating to state plan. Recommendation is to pass as is. Any discussion? If not, please take the vote.
Members voting on Senate Bill 167 SD1 HD2, recommendation of the chair is to pass as is. Any members voting reservations? Any members voting no? All present members vote aye. Chair, recommendation is adopted.
Thank you. Next up is Senate Bill 222, Senate Draft 1, House Draft 1 relating to DAGs. Recommendation is to pass as is. Any discussion? If not, please take the vote.
Members voting on Senate Bill 222 SD1 HD1, recommendation of the chair is to pass as is. Any members voting reservations? Any members voting no? All present members vote aye. Chair, recommendation is adopted.
Okay, next up, Senate Bill 1035. This bill has some problems, so deferred. Next one is Senate Bill 406, Senate Draft 1, House Draft 1 relating to campaign spending staff. Recommendation is to pass as is. Any discussion? If not, please take the vote.
Members voting on Senate Bill 406 SD1 HD1, recommendation of the chair is to pass as is. Any members voting reservations? Any members voting no? All present members vote aye. Chair, recommendation is adopted.
Thank you. Next up is Senate Bill 405, Senate Draft 1, House Draft 1 relating to campaign contributions. Recommendation is to pass as is. Any discussion? If not, please take the vote.
Members voting on Senate Bill 405 SD1 HD1, recommendation of the chair is to pass as is. Any members voting reservations? Any members voting no? All present members vote aye. Chair, recommendation is adopted.
Thank you. Next up is Senate Bill 402, House Draft 1 relating to reimbursements for expenditures by committees. Recommendation is to pass as is. Any discussion? If not, please take a vote.
Members voting on Senate Bill 402 HD1, recommendation of the chair is to pass as is. Any members voting reservations? Any members voting no? All present members vote aye. Chair, recommendation is adopted.
Thank you. Next up is Senate Bill 400, Senate Draft 1, House Draft 1 relating to campaign finance reports. Recommendation is to pass as is. Any discussion? Now, please take a vote.
Members voting on Senate Bill 400 SD1 HD1, recommendation of the chair is to pass as is. Any members voting reservations? Any members voting no? All present members vote aye. Chair, recommendation adopted.
Thank you. Next up is Senate Bill 401, House Draft 1 relating to violations of campaign finance law. Recommendation is to pass as is. Any discussion? If not, please take the vote.
Members voting on Senate Bill 401 HD1, recommendation of the chair is to pass as is. Any members voting reservations? Any members voting no? All present members vote aye. Chair, recommendation is adopted.
Thank you. Next up is Senate Bill 560, House Draft 2 relating to ranked choice voting. Recommendation is to pass as is. Any Any discussion? Not, please take the vote.
Members voting on Senate Bill 560 HD1, recommendation of the chair is to pass as is. Any members voting reservations? Any members voting no? I have a no vote from Representative McDermott. Any other members voting no? All other present members vote aye. Chair recommendation is adopted.
Thank you. Next up is Senate Bill 421, Senate Draft 1, House Draft 1 relating to vacancies. Recommendation is to pass as is. Any discussion? Representative Kobayashi.
I think that it puts the Office of Elections in a impossible situation if they have to fund anywhere from about $250,000 to $2 million for a special election. It would require that the legislature give them the money or they find the money elsewhere, all of which would take time. The second problem, of course, is time. Just within their procedures, they would need at least 70 days. So a person, the position would be vacant for at least that long. I think a combination of what we have right now, plus a special election later on would make sense.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion? Representative Tam.
I'll be voting with reservations. My concern is with the special election to fill the role of United States senators. I think for the longest time, we've had it as an appointed position to build up seniority and to make sure that we have a say. So just for those reasons, I'll be voting with reservations.
Thank you. Representative Walberger.
Thank you, Chair, and strong support. I think it's important that our communities are given the choice to choose who they want for their representation, and it's a good investment in our system to make that expenditure as necessary. I think personally, we have entirely too many people appointed to their positions. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? If not, please take the vote.
Members voting on Senate Bill 421 SD1 HD1, recommendation of the chair is to pass as is. So I have reservations by Representative Tam and Representative Kobayashi. Any other members voting reservations? Any members voting no? Okay, all present members vote aye. Chair recommendation is adopted.
Okay, thank you. Next up is Senate Bill 159, Senate Draft 1, House Draft 1 relating to voting. Recommendation is to pass as is. Any discussion? Not, please take the vote.
Members voting on Senate Bill 159 SD1 HD1, recommendation of the chair is to pass as is. Any members voting reservations? Any members voting no? All present members vote aye. Chair recommendation is adopted.
Thank you. Next up is Senate Bill 548, Senate Draft 1, House Draft 1 relating to elections by mail. Recommendation is to pass as a HD2, defecting the effective date and technical non-substantive changes. Any discussion? Not, please take the vote.
Members voting on Senate Bill 548 SD1 HD1, recommendation of the chair is to pass with amendments. Any members voting reservations? Any members voting no? All present members vote aye. Chair recommendation is adopted.
Thank you. Next up is Senate Bill 225, Senate Draft 1, House Draft 1 relating to infrastructure improvement districts. Recommendation is to pass as is. Any discussion? If not, please take the vote.
Members voting on Senate Bill 225 SD1 HD1, recommendation of the chair is to pass as is. Any members voting reservations? Any members voting no? All present members vote aye. Chair recommendation is adopted.
Thank you. Next up, Senate Bill 659, Senate Draft 2, House Draft 1 relating to light tech. This will be deferred until Wednesday, next Wednesday, end of agenda. So with that, we will move into calendar 2, the 2:30 calendar. So the first bill on the 2:30 calendar is Senate Bill 806, House Draft 1 relating to public school lands. Ready? You folks are ready? Okay. Oh, terrific. Okay, so first up is the Attorney General.
Hi, good afternoon, Chair Luke, Vice Chair Cullen. I am Deputy Attorney General Melissa Coloni. Department offers comments today. Essentially, the bill is not necessary because the department has already initiated the condemnation action that the bill requires. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Next up is DOE.
Good afternoon, Chair Luke, Vice Chair Cullen. To echo what the AG has said, we've worked on this for and moved it quite effectively in the last year. We are very close to the finish line. We're just determining water meter ownership now, but we should have this concluded by the end of the year or before that. Thank you.
Terrific. Thank you. That's all the testifiers on Zoom. Any questions? If not, let's move on to the next bill, Senate Bill 1384, relating to education. First up, it is Early Learning Board.
Good afternoon, Chair Luke and Vice Chair Cullen, members of the committee. The Early Learning Board is pleased to stand on its written testimony in support of the intent of SB 1384 HD1, and we can be available for questions. Thank you.
Thank you. That's all the testifiers who signed up for Zoom. Any questions? If not, let's move on to the next bill, Senate Bill 224. First up, it is DOE.
Good afternoon, Chair Luke, Vice Chair Cullen, and members of the committee. I am Terry Ushijima, Interim Assistant Superintendent with the Department of Education, testifying on behalf of Superintendent Christina Kishimoto. The Hawaii State Department of Education respectfully offers comments on Senate Bill 224, House Draft 1. The department values the opportunity for students to participate in career and technical education programs. Currently, there exists a geographic exception procedure that can be used to enroll students in educational programs outside of their home school. Should this measure continue to move forward, the department respectfully requests the addition on page 2 in section 2, line 12 of the phrase, provided that the home school does not offer the same career and technical education program, and that if enrolling all students pursuant to paragraphs. This amendment would ensure greater access to CTE programs for all students by first checking the availability of programs at a student's home school. Thank you for the opportunity to provide testimony.
Thank you very much. That's all the testifiers who signed up to testify. Any questions? If not, let's move on to the next bill, Senate Bill 807. First up, it is DOE.
Aloha, Chair Luke, Vice Chair Cullen, and members of the committee. I'm Felicity Basami, Deputy Superintendent for the Hawaii State Department of Education, testifying on behalf of Superintendent Kishimoto. The department supports the tenets of this bill and offers comments in our written testimony around the expectations of data. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up is HSTA.
I'm Mitzi Higa, speaking for Corey Rosenlee, President of Hawaii State Teachers Association. We stand in support of this measure, and we want to thank the legislature for working to make the data points correct. Giving value to what we know about learning is that teachers, licensed teachers, and teachers who stay really affect, that really affect academic achievement. And also that the DOE already has the SSIR, which is the School Status Improvement Report. And on that report is a lot of this data that can be incorporated into the academic financial plan. So if the DOE collects that data and sends it to the school, to the principals to use, it'll make it a lot easier to have this within the academic plan. So thank you, and we hope you support.
Thank you very much. Any other testifier? Oh, sorry, not any other testifier. That's all the testifiers on Zoom. Any questions? If not, let's move on to the next bill, Senate Bill 814. First up, it is Ms. Yvonne Lau, Hawaii State Public Charter School Commission.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair Cullen, members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to provide our written comments with some concerns, and we stand on our written testimony. We're happy to answer any questions you or the committee may have. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. That's all the testifiers on Zoom. Any questions? If not, let's move on to the next bill, Senate Bill 808. First up, it is Attorney General's Office.
Good afternoon, Chair Luke, Vice Chair Cullen, members of the committee. I'm Melissa Coloni, Deputy Attorney General. The department offers comments today. The department is opposed to the provisions that would allow the agency to retain private attorneys. We have also identified a potential single subject issue in the bill. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. Thank you.
Thank you. Department of Transportation. Okay. Department of Education.
Good afternoon, Chair Luke, Vice Chair Cullen, Randy Tanaka, DOE. I'm happy to say that we have been working quite well with Mr. Sniffen and the committee and the board. We have one thought that or comment regarding the sweeping of all county lands into the SFA, as not all county lands have a relationship with the SFA. So just a consideration. I have had a discussion with Mr. Sniffen, and we're on the same page with this item, and we'll go forward, but I won't speak for Mr. Sniffen. Hello, thank you.
Okay, thank you. That's all the testifiers on Zoom. Any questions? If not, let's move on to the next bill, Senate Bill 336. First up, it is Department of Agriculture.
Aloha Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee, Phyllis Shimobukuro Geyser on behalf of the Department of Agriculture. We stand in strong support of our written testimony. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up, it is Ulupono.
Good afternoon, Chair Luke, Vice Chair Cullen, members of the committee. Michael Munikata here on behalf of the Ulupono Initiative. We'll stand on our testimony in strong support of this measure. Mahalo.
Thank you very much. Hawaii Farm Bureau.
Good afternoon, Chair Luke, Vice Chair Cullen, members of the Finance Committee. Brian Miyamoto here on behalf of the Hawaii Farm Bureau. We'll stand on a written testimony in support.
Thank you. That's all the testifiers on Zoom. Any questions? If not, let's move on to the next bill, Senate Bill 60. First up, it is Polynesian Voyaging Society. I don't think she's here. Okay, so there's nobody else to testify. Let's move on to the next bill. Senate Bill 1187. First up, it is Department of Public Safety.
Hi, good afternoon, Chair Luke, Vice Chair Cullen, committee members. Department stands on our written testimony in strong support of this bill. Funds are needed to cover payroll costs for healthcare and ACOs. We're here for any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's see. There's nobody else who signed up for Zoom. I have a question. What is the most projected amount that you need? Is that what is was in the original bill?
Yes.
6
million.
6,000,000.
6,006,000. Okay, thank you very much. Next up, it is any other questions? If not, let's move on to the next bill, Senate Bill 1102. This is relating to mixed martial arts. There's no one signed up for Zoom, so let's move on to the next bill, Senate Bill 1103, DCCA.
Thank you, Chair. The board stands on its testimony in support.
Thank you very much. Any questions, members? If not, let's move on to the next bill, Senate Bill 1053, DBED.
Hi, this is Mark Ritchie from DBED. We'll stand on our written testimony in strong support and here to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's all the testifiers on Zoom. Any questions? If not, let's move on to the next bill, Senate Bill 1412. Let's see. The only one who signed up is Mr. Brian Milam. Oh, not present. Okay, there's nobody here to testify on this bill. So let's move on to the next one. Senate Bill 350 relating to the environment. First up, it is Department of Health.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, and the committee member. This is Alec Wong, testifying on behalf of the Department of Health. We stand on our testimony in opposition. We are available to answer questions.
Okay. Next up is Friends Maha Ulepu.
Thank you. And good afternoon, Chair Luke and Vice Chair Cullen. Are you able to hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you fine.
Thank you. Thank you very much for setting this for hearing. We really strongly support this legislation be passed. Our community in the Poipukaloa area had great difficulty with contaminated water going across a beach. Several of our keiki and adults in the community actually got infections from the high bacteria counts. And we were unable to persuade the Department of Health to post the necessary warnings. Even though the law supported it, we had to file a formal complaint with the EPA to finally get the posting. And I think it's imperative that even our tier 1 beaches be tested during brown water advisories, because we should protect visitors and our public. We're not now testing the waters from our rivers where our kids, I had several grandchildren that run canoe clubs, and we don't test during brown water there, and we don't test there just to warn the local people who are having their canoe club practices of times when bacteria is high, so they would take extra showers and extra precautions to clean themselves after being exposed. And I think the Department of Health does need to do more than it's been doing, and we strongly support this measure toward that end. Thank you very much for allowing us to testify.
Thank you very much. Hawai'i chapter of Surfrider Foundation.
Hi, my name is Duration. I'm the Oahu chapter coordinator for Surfrider Foundation. We're a nationally based nonprofit with several chapters in Hawaii, and we are in strong support of SB 350. This is a simple bill. It just proposes small and practical changes to the existing beach monitoring program, which has great intent, and it will better protect the public's safe enjoyment of the beaches. And so really, it's not asking for too much. It is just to be more equitable in what's being monitored, and that to ensure that the intent of the monitoring program is fulfilled, in that they're testing during brownwater advisory events, which would be kind of extremely important, and that they're not only testing at tourist popular beaches, but beaches that locals frequent as well, and that signs would go up when there were health hazards. And there were 2 amendments that we added, proposed amendments that we added to our testimony as well. So yeah, we'd like to stand on our written testimony on behalf of thousands of our volunteers and members.
Thank you. Next up is Duration of Surfrider Foundation.
That was me, so you can contact me.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's all the testifiers on Zoom. Any questions? Representative Kobayashi.
For DOH, do you need more money? Is this a matter of just having more money, more personnel?
Yes, I think we need at least 18 more positions to fulfill, the requirement. And at the same time, we need at least same amount of the staffing for the lab, and also all the costs for the lab to purchase all the media and testing media and equipment. And all this is not, budgeted. We only have 1 staff for each island only. We cannot handle so many, groundwater advisory at the same time.
What would that amount to?
What was the amount that would be needed for 18?
18 positions for the clean water branch. At least 18 more positions for the state labs, and then the cost for to run the testing.
So how much money is that?
$50,000 for
At least
position.
$60,000 per positions, and then 60 times about 40. 60,000 times 40 equal to how many? 2.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? If not, let's move on to the next bill. Next bill is Senate Bill 1329 relating to procurement. First up, it is State Procurement Office.
Good afternoon again, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. The State Procurement Office stands on its written testimony, providing comments. Thank you.
Okay, next up is DAGS.
Chair, Vice Chair, Audrey Dano, DAGS. We support the purposes that you folks have addressed in the bill. We offer some amendments, and we're still concerned about the time limits. And I'll be here for any questions with some of our administrators. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up is DHS.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, committee members. Joseph Campos, Deputy Director for Department of Human Services. The department stands on its written testimony, opposing the measure and providing comments.
Thank you very much. Next up is Department of Transportation. Okay, thank you very much. Next up, it is Associated Builders and Contractors.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Malcolm Barkarski on behalf of Associated Builders and Contractors. You have our written comments. We ask that the committee restore the SD2 version of the bill, setting up their deadlines and also eliminating the default win provision that appears in the HD2. Thank you. Available for any questions.
Thank you very much. Next up is Yogi Kwong Engineers.
Yes, hi. Good afternoon. Jeff Kalani. I'm the president and CEO of Yogi Kwong Engineers. We're a 50-person engineering firm, and we're in strong opposition for the reasons stated, and I'll stand on our written testimony. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up is Hart Crozier, Inc.
Yes, hello, Chair Janice Marsters for Hart Krauser. We also oppose this this bill for and are principally concerned or chiefly concerned with the automatic award or overturning of an award to give to the protester if the State Procurement Office hasn't rendered a decision within 75 days. You know, as an engineering firm, where we strongly support qualification-based selection and the possibility of giving projects to engineering firms who may not be qualified but filed a protest is not protective of public health and safety. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up is Sandy Wong.
Good afternoon, Chair Luke, Vice Chair, members of the committee. I am testifying in strong support on this measure. I thought it was interesting when I looked at the past testimony that DAGS had said, and I would reiterate that just because something is done faster doesn't mean that it's fair. And also when State Procurement Office said that, you know, when you do something too quickly, it leads to errors of judgment, and that is something that is not good for our state. Thank you.
Okay, that's all the testifiers on Zoom. Any questions? If not, let's move on to the next bill, Senate Bill 332. First up, it is DAGS.
Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee, Audrey Dano, DAGS. We stand in, we support the intent, and we have comments, and we'll be here for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's all the testifiers on Zoom. Any questions? If not, let's move on to the next bill, Senate Bill 788, relating to procurement. First up, it is the State Procurement Office.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Bonnie Kaakui for the State Procurement Office. We stand on our written testimony. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up, it is DAGS.
Chair, Vice Chair, committee members, Audrey Downer, Deputy for DAGS. We support the intent, and we have comments and here for questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up, it is Department of Transportation. Okay, thank you very much. Next up, it is Subcontractors Association of Hawaii. Okay, next is Yogi Kwong Engineers.
Hi, good afternoon again, Chair Luke. Thank you very much to you and your committee. We stand on our written testimony in strong opposition of this.
Thank you very much. Next up is Okahara and Associates.
Good afternoon, Chair Luke, Vice Chair, committee members. I'm Charles Jury. I'm one of the owners of Okahara and Associates. We're an engineering firm here in Hawaii, locally based, minority owned, small business. And we have strong opposition to some of the language that is contained within this bill, particularly on part 2 of the bill, which is proposing amendments to the section 103D 304, qualification-based selection of professional services. We believe that the current state procurement of qualification-based selection is in line with the federal qualification-based selection criteria, which is based on the 1972 Brooks Act, which clearly states that that selection shall be made on competence and qualification. Also, we believe the current procurement code allows us as a small business to be competitive in the selection process based on our specialized expertise within the engineering community. So we respectfully asked in our written testimony, there are some additional points that we ask that you folks consider, and we stand on that testimony and are available to answer any questions in regard to that if you have any. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up is Hart Krauser.
Hello again, Chair and committee members. We also submitted testimony in strong opposition, and also note that the testifier for American Council of Engineering Companies wasn't able to be here today, but they submitted with their testimony a position paper that we worked on and prepared to lay out some of the issues that we've identified with respect to the claims made in the procurement report, upon which part 2 of this bill relies for the language that's been proposed. The procurement report preparers were supposed to work with stakeholders when they came up with that report. They did interview some of our members. We were told by those members, and I think you have testimony to that effect, that there was never a conversation about QBS. So we feel that the statements made by that report are wrong. And if anything, we should be looking at that report in more detail with a more extensive group of stakeholders to establish whether any changes need to be made. There is sort of a supposition in the report that the federal way is the best, and that may not be the case or may not be what works best for us. So there are just a lot of problems relying on that report for making changes to the procurement law, a procurement law that seems to be working without further discussion with stakeholders. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Next up is Akinaka and Associates.
Thank you, Chair Luke, Vice Chair Cullen, honorable members of the committee. I stand in strong opposition as stated in our testimony. As mentioned by others, and qualification-based selection is so important for us. I head up a civil engineering firm, and I'm also the past president of the American Council of Engineering Companies of Hawaii. We strongly believe that selecting the most qualified engineering company is really important for the public health and safety for our community. Thank you very much for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you very much. Lastly, Sandy Wong.
Thank you, Chair Luke. You've received my written testimony. I am in strong opposition to SB 788, particularly Part 2. So if anything, if the committee is inclined to move this bill out, I would ask that Part 2 be removed. Otherwise, to just defer the bill. And I've been told that I misspoke in SB 1329. I am opposed to that bill. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions, members? If not, let's move on to the next bill, Senate Bill 1222, relating to Conference Center Revolving Fund, University of Hawaii.
Good afternoon. Sorry, I was waiting for my cue to speak. I didn't want to interrupt. Kalei Raposa for the University of Hawaii at Hilo, testifying in support of Senate Bill 1222 relating to our conference center. We seek to move the conference center account under the Chancellor's authority, since it is currently under the College of Continuing Education and Community Service, which through reorganization was abolished 2 years ago. Then we stand on the remainder of our written testimony, and I'm here to answer questions if you have any.
Thank you very much. Any questions from the members? If not, let's move on to the next bill, Senate Bill 838. First up, it is Department of Health, Executive Office on Aging.
Good afternoon, Chair Luke, Vice Chair Cullen, and members of the committee. My name is Caroline Kadirao, Director of the Executive Office on Aging, and we're providing comments on Senate Bill 838, Senate Draft 1, House Draft 2, relating to services for Kapuna. We are commenting on this because we are requesting some necessary amendments to align with our federal law and reporting requirements. I know you have our testimony in front of you. This bill is to provide flexibility for caregivers to support their loved ones. The proposed amendments ask for the proper naming of both homemaker and chore services, as well as a correction in the definition for person-centered support planning. And also, there's a part in here about coaches needing to be mandated reporters. We feel that this is not necessary because they already, according to their contract, are mandated reporters, so additional training is not necessary. We ask that if these proposed changes are not incorporated into the bill that we've asked for through this legislative session, we cannot support the bill as written. We will continue to support our caregivers through both the use of our Kapuna Care program and our federally funded programs through the Older Americans Act. And I'm available for questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up is DHS.
Good afternoon, Chair Luke, Vice Chair and committee members. Lisa Amador, Adult Protective and Community Services Administrator. DHS stands on our written testimony and support, and we defer to the Executive Office on Aging. I'm available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up, it is AARP.
Good afternoon, Chair Luke and members of the committee. Audrey Suganakagawa from AARP Hawaii. We stand on our testimony in support of this bill, and we defer to the Executive Office on Aging for any amendments and comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Alzheimer's Association.
Aloha, Chair Luke and members of the committee. Mahalo for the opportunity to testify in strong support of SB 838. We also stand on our written testimony.
Thank you very much. Next up is Poki'i Vallis. Not present. Okay, that's all the testifiers on Zoom. Any questions? Representative Kobayashi.
For Executive Office on Aging, did you submit these amendments to the prior committee or committees?
I'm sorry, excuse me, Representative. Yes, I did. And we also sent a separate memo to make sure that it was incorporated into the changes for the bill. But then I think when it got received by Finance, the changes hadn't been reflected.
So were these amendments submitted to both prior committees?
That's my understanding, yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? If not, let's move on to the next bill, Senate Bill 1018. First up, it is Department of Health.
Good afternoon, Chair Luke, Vice Chair Cullen, members of the committee. My name is Lauren Kim, testifying on behalf of the Department of Health. We will stand on our written testimony in support of a reorganization pilot to apply lessons learned from the pandemic and to realize restructuring and cost savings. Thank you, and I'm available for questions.
Thank you very much. That's all the testifiers on Zoom. Any questions? If not, let's move on to the next bill, Senate Bill 1138. First up, it is Department of Health.
Good afternoon, Chair Luke, members of the committee. This is Keith Ridley on behalf of the Director of Health. We stand in strong support of this measure, and I'm here for any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's all the testifiers on Zoom. Any questions? If not, let's move on to the next bill, Senate Bill 1144, Department of Health.
Good afternoon, Chair. I'm Matthew Shim, Chief of the Family Health Services Division for the Department of Health. We stand on our testimony in strong support, and we request our offered amendments to reinsert language from the original bill, sections 2 through 5 in our testimony. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's all the testifiers on Zoom. Any questions? If not, let's move on to the next bill, Senate Bill 2. First up, it's Office of Hawaiian Affairs.
Aloha.
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, thank you. Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee, Sterling Wong, Chief Advocate for the Office of Hawaiian Affairs. We submitted written testimony in opposition to SB 2. In summary, OHA is opposing this bill because it would result in the diminishment of the ceded lands corpus for which our beneficiaries have unrelinquished claims. While we appreciate this bill's efforts to address the critical affordable housing needs of our state, its proposed 99-year leases are tantamount to the sale of our ancestral lands without addressing our people's claims first. We propose amendments to mitigate our concerns in our written testimony. Mahalo for the opportunity to testify, and I'll be available for questions.
Thank you very much. Next up is HHFDC.
Thank you very much, Chair Luke, Vice Chair Cullen, members of the committee, Denise Matsubara, HHFDC. We support this measure that expands our current exemption. Priced out of paradise. That has been the theme on the news lately, with the median price of a single family home well over $900,000. Our written testimony cites statistics on overcrowding and the high cost burden housing has on its residents. This committee is well aware of the increasing number of people leaving the state because of the high cost of living and the shortage of availability of housing. In our testimony, we cite that HHFDC has established the authority under state law to fulfill its mission, citing the 1998 Hawaii Supreme Court case, OHA versus the Board of Land and Natural Resources, in which the state prevailed and may alienate ceded land so long as such lands are for public purposes. Not that we have any intentions to do so, but as HHFDC delivers affordable housing units to the market, we are, by virtue of our existing programs, also housing Native Hawaiians. We do cite those statistics in our testimony and note that at least 38% of our LIHTC units are now occupied by Native Hawaiians and other Pacific Islanders. Ironically, in the SMS survey, reaction to the for sale / 99-year leasehold product that was referred to in earlier testimony, the survey showed that Native Hawaiians, 84%, were more likely than non-Native Hawaiians at 69% to favor the 99-year leasehold product. So demographic data establishes that Native Hawaiians will benefit from the legislature's continued support of our affordable housing development. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you very much. Next up is Kalahui.
Aloha, Chair Lu. Aloha, members of the committee. Kalahui Hawaii stands on their testimony, but I wanted to just make a couple points that the statistics that the previous speaker just gave, the Hawaii Housing Finance and Development Corporation just gave, it actually includes Pacific Islanders. So it's not specific to Hawaiians. And I also want to say that to bring up the topic of housing Native Hawaiians we really got to look at, to be really genuine about housing Hawaiians, you really should be fully funding the Department of Hawaiian Homelands. There's 28,000 families on that list. The average household size is 4. And if you times 28,000 by 4, you can actually house 100,000 Hawaiians if you just attack the waiting list for the Department of Hawaiian Homelands. The Department of Hawaiian Homelands has the mandate by Congress, has the infrastructure, has the administration to do the work of providing housing, which is affordable for Kanaka Maoli, for Native Hawaiians. And also want to share, in addition to our testimony, we have submitted written testimony to the U.S. Senate Committee on Indian Affairs, and we're requesting an oversight committee on actions like this measure, to disintegrate the trust, allowing 99-year leases and more. We're looking we're asking for a oversight committee to come to Hawaii to look into this matter. Because it was a part of the Admissions Act that the lands were given over to the state to be held in trust for Kanaka Maoli, for the public, yes. But the management of the trust, I think, has been problematic over since statehood. So it's the federal government's duty, I think, at this point to intervene. But I do think that this needs to stop, the 99-year leases. Thank you, mahalo.
Thank you. Next up is Native Hawaiian Legal Corp.
Hi, aloha. Thank you, Chair. My name is David Koila Copper, and I am the Director of Litigation for the Native Hawaiian Legal Corporation. I testify on behalf of NHLC, and we are in strong opposition to this legislation. I do thank you for the opportunity to present today. We have heard and we will hear testimony correctly pointing out that this legislation has critical legal deficiencies, and we did provide written testimony to that effect. And I should note that the vast majority of the testimony submitted on this matter is in opposition. Now, I do want to address the statement made by HHFC today that the state is permitted to alienate ceded lands, and they cite to the Eva Marina decision from the 90s. Now, that decision was already held by the Supreme Court in the later OHA versus HCDC case to be dicta non-controlling. And in fact, as you're aware, that court in that case actually held otherwise. And while the US Supreme Court did overturn the state Supreme Court's decision to the extent that it relied upon the apology resolution, there were multiple state law bases to reach the same conclusion, that ceded land simply cannot be alienated. And there are other court decisions which recognize it does not matter what a land disposition is called, whether it's a lease, license, sale, it's the effect. And what we have here is the effect of alienating ceded lands. Now, I do imagine that in your roles, you need to look for solutions. It's an enviable position. And at the end of the day, we all need solutions. And the good thing is that if affordable housing is the goal, there are many allies and supporters of that goal in this virtual room, NHLC included. The other good thing is that there is a viable option to assist in that goal. And we actually just heard testimony to this effect, supporting Hawaiian homelands beneficiaries. This is not an aside or tangent, and it's reason why you're going to hear repeat testimony on this, because it is directly relevant. It'll go much further than the proposed measure in solving our housing crisis, and it will not do so at the expense of our public lands. Over 30,000 Native Hawaiians, or approximately, they're on the wait list. They're currently seeking affordable housing. And you are probably aware this is a community that has had to jump through many onerous hoops just to establish their qualifications for a homestead. It is not an easy process. And oftentimes it takes litigation just to get on the wait list, which we have been involved in. And once there, many beneficiaries have had to wait decades, and many have died. Year after year, these individuals, and by the way, the state does owe a fiduciary duty to provide these beneficiaries with affordable housing. They've had to wait, and they've had legislation and litigation aimed to benefit them and get them off the wait list and into housing, into homes. And these efforts have historically been denied and thwarted again and again. And speaking to my clients, it is clear that they feel simply that they're forgotten, that their rights and interests are forgotten. And, we're all here to be empathic. And so I'm just communicating it that is the experience that they have. And it's one that is compounded when legislation passes that benefits special interests while no similar efforts are made for them. So in this way, I wanted to bring awareness to you that this legislation really does send the wrong message to our community, whether intended or not. And again, affordable housing is a fantastic goal. Here we have a viable opportunity to place 30,000 families into affordable housing now. And I agree, based on what we've seen, that number, because those are individuals on the wait list. Each award provides generational stability. It's not just one individual, not even one small family. We've had situations with many, many generations, even random people off the street now have stability because of Hawaiian homelands. And at the same time, this housing issue can be accomplished without affecting the Sea and Lands Trust. And I'll say this is not just a Native Hawaiian issue. If 100,000 people now have affordable housing, think of what that opens up for other communities in need. So I applaud and appreciate this opportunity, the commitment to affordable housing. This is not the solution, but there is a true affordable housing solution. I strongly urge you to support future efforts to adequately fund the Department of Hawaiian Homelands and to support those beneficiaries when it comes before you in the future. Mahalo.
Thank you. Next up is Hope Services.
Aloha, thank you for the opportunity to testify. My name is Kristen Alice and I'm the Director of Community Relations at Hope Services. We are the largest homeless services provider on Hawaii Island, and we're standing in strong opposition to this bill. And that might be kind of surprising at first, given that it is intended to increase affordable housing. But like previous testifiers have stated, taking away lands from beneficiaries is not the way to do it. In fact, Native Hawaiians are disproportionately impacted by homelessness. And although, I mean, addressing HHFTC's point that was made about 38% of the affordable housing they have currently going to Native Hawaiians and Pacific Islanders. When I hear that, it brings to mind an analogy I heard before, which is that this is like if somebody steals your car and then they say, but you can use it for 38% of the month, something like that, excuse me. So for those reasons, we oppose this testimony. Thank you for hearing the testimony.
Thank you very much. Next up, it is Charles Morgan. Okay, next up, it is Derek Kawanoi.
Aloha, Madam Chair Luke, Vice Chair Colin. My name is Derek Kawanoi, and we've heard a good amount of testimony here and also written testimony touching on some of the unique state law issues. And we heard earlier that some information is being shared with the Senate Indian Affairs Committee. I simply just wanted to bring to your attention some of the very unique human rights concerns that are at issue with Senate Bill 2. Primarily, I want to focus on free, prior, and informed consent. Now, the majority of the world's governments have recognized that Indigenous peoples have certain rights. The US has recognized this recently, even though it switched positions, and even countries like Canada and New Zealand. Both those countries, along with the US, originally opposed the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. But those two countries have changed positions completely, and they're looking for ways to implement the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. This bill is problematic because in two ways, it does not implement or does not adhere to the principles of free, prior, and informed consent. The fact that these lands could be leased and nothing in the bill includes language to obtain or pursue Native Hawaiians free, prior, and informed consent makes it problematic from a human rights perspective. And the fact that we have legislation that can impact Native Hawaiians also violates the principles of free, prior, and informed consent. That's all that I have, and I did submit written testimony that goes a little bit more into detail. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's all the written testimony on, that's all the testimony on Zoom. Any questions? If not, let's move on to the next bill, Senate Bill 39, relating to housing. There's no one here to testify on this bill, so let's move on to the next bill, Senate Bill 866. First up, it is Board of Water Supply.
Good afternoon, Chair Luke and committee members. I'm Ellen Kitamura, Deputy Manager from the Board of Water Supply. The board stands on its testimony in opposition to SB 866. We ask for your consideration for the suggested amendments, and I will be happy to respond to any questions.
Thank you very much. HHFDC did not sign up, but I know they're present. Did you want to provide testimony for this?
Thank you, Chair. We'll just stand on our written testimony. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That's all the testifiers on Zoom. Any questions? If not, let's move on to the next bill, Senate Bill 142, Hawaii Public Housing Authority.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. We stand on our testimony in support. Thank you very much. We are here for any questions that you may have.
Thank you very much. Next up, it is HHFDC.
Thank you very much, Chair. We stand on our written testimony in support. Mahalo.
Thank you very much. Next up, it is Department of Education.
Good afternoon, Chair Luke, Vice Chair Cullen, members of the committee. We stand, Randy Tanaka, DOE. We stand by our testimony provided. Aloha. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up, it is Catholic Charities Hawaii. Ms. Betty Lou Larson.
Sorry, I couldn't get muted. Thank you very much for hearing our testimony. Catholic Charities stands in strong support of this bill. We've completed almost 5 housing projects through our Housing Development Corporation. And we feel that this would really help to expand or stretch the monies that the legislature does give to the Rental Housing Revolving Fund to create more affordable units. In essence, because there's such a gap in the projects, this fund fills that gap. And by essentially taking money from one fund, which is the Rental Housing Revolving Fund, and giving it to DOE for housing, for school impact fees, it's just changing money from one state entity to another, rather than keeping the money in the Rental Housing Revolving Fund to create more very desperately needed affordable housing rental units. Thank you very much for listening to our testimony.
Thank you very much. That's all the testifiers on Zoom. Any questions? If not, let's move on to the next bill, Senate Bill 828. First up, it is the judiciary.
Afternoon, Chair Luke, Vice Chair Cullen, and members of the committee. The judiciary stands on our written testimony, and I'm available for any questions.
Very much. That's all the testifiers on Zoom. Any questions? If not, let's move on to the next bill, Senate Bill 936. First up, it is Department of Health.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Lauren Kim for DOH. The department opposes this measure as written, but we are willing to support if shalls are amended to may and if there is a sunset date added. Thank you, and I'm available for questions.
Thank you very much. Next up, it is Brennan Yamaguchi or Ryan and Melissa Yamaguchi.
This piece of paper right here is all I'm asking for. You can get it in several languages, in Korean and Chinese. And it is being now translated in Hawaiian and Micronesian and other Pacific Island languages. My name is Brennan Yamaguchi. I'm 12 years old and a 6th grader at Marino School. I'm asking you to support Senate Bill 936 relating to public health. This piece of paper provides information for first aid and will lessen suffering and maybe even save lives in the workplace and the community. 1 in every 26 people may be affected by epilepsy. 10% of the population may experience a seizure in their lifetime. You do not need to have epilepsy to have a seizure. Seizures can occur from fevers, diabetes, strokes, taking the wrong medicines, and from COVID-19. You can have a seizure from head injuries or a fall such as a car accident. If your job involves heat exposure, whether the sun, equipment, or chemical-related, seizures can occur. Anyone entering a workplace as a visitor, customer, or vendor and is prone to seizures also poses a hazard. I know the Department of Health has the desire to help the community, and I'm happy to work with them. Workplaces can access it for free, and you can download it from several places. Organizations like OSHA encourages that on their website. Please see my written testimony for the link. Maybe this poster can be added to or credited within existing training or posters that the state already requires. Can this be added to the checklist as one more item? Again, this is a free download the department can provide, or the business can download upon inspection. If it should be able to be monitored just like other mandated posters are. It can also be inspected virtually or with an electronic signature. Adding this right here is what I'm asking for. I've asked some businesses to please start, and many are happy to as it is so easy. I want this to be available in workplaces like these I want a healthy environment for all the people on this call.
That was me. That was me. Good job. Good job.
For all the people on this call, especially state-related buildings and offices. Prior to the pandemic, we had hundreds of visitors at the state capitol. I know you pray for the day those doors open again soon. I want to protect you. Do not be afraid of change. This is our duty as a community. I've been very blessed to have a wonderful education and a loving family. At Marano School, we say, to whom much is given, much is expected. You might be surprised, but at Marano, you might be surprised, but I do not have epilepsy. I have never had a seizure. I have had friends who do, and I want to help them. I hope that you want to help them too. Please join me and help support Senate Bill 936. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. And then once we open up again, you can come and visit my door and see the sign in person.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all the
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Testifiers on Zoom, any questions? Representative Kobayashi.
For a Department of Health. Could you satisfy the requirements of this bill simply by saying that if you want information, please access our website?
I think if that is, if we can find language that I think we can find language that accomplishes that intent by saying the department shall make available on its website information related to workplace seizure, rescue, or assistance protocols. We can live with that. The way it's currently worded, it's a perpetual mandate. And we don't want to find ourselves in a position where a life could have been saved because a poster wasn't in place because the department didn't inspect. That compounds the tragedy. However, if it is permissive that the department may or even shall make available on its website, we will be pleased to work with this future leader of our community to make that information available to the public.
Thank you.
Vice Chair?
Yes, I had a question for the young gentleman that testified so eloquently. I know he said that he wants to help his friends who have had seizures, but I wanted to know why specifically this measure and this topic. If there's any other personal reasons why he may wanted to support this subject.
I just wanted to help them and everyone else.
What has been the best part of being this civic leader such as yourself throughout the process?
The best thing is knowing that people are getting helped and are feeling supported and are being having awareness about their condition or about seizures.
Mm-hmm. It's a very good job. Well, thank you. You have a great weekend.
So Brennan, this hearing is on YouTube and you can keep watching it. So you should, encourage your friends and people you're supporting to watch it and how terrific a job you did for them.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is gonna be forever on YouTube, so you can watch it anytime, even when you're old like us.
Thank you.
Okay, so with that, why don't we go to the next bill, Senate Bill 1156. Nobody's here to testify. And then the last bill, Senate Bill 1194, Department of Public Safety.
Hi, good afternoon again, Chair Luke Maxotani, Department of Public Safety. We'll stand on our written testimony in support of this bill. The department needs this appropriation to balance out this fiscal year. We are here for any questions you may have. Thank you.
Can you tell me what the amount is?
Yeah, we're looking at 3,000. Oh, excuse me,
3,000 pounds.
You give me that, right?
You said it twice, so must be 3,000.
Let's start all over. It's 3,343,000.
3,342,000.
Yes, and it's basically for healthcare physicians and nurses. And these are contracted physicians and nurses because we have correctional facilities that don't have 24/7. And during COVID, we have to provide 24/7. We have hospitalization costs that we have to cover for our Arizona inmates. And inmates here also, we need to cover their hospital costs. We had deep cleaning because of COVID issues within the facilities and offices. We had situations where food service was shut down and we needed to provide, I guess, prepared food for the inmates. We had no staff to prepare food. And we also needed money for safe travels, additional funds for safe travel.
Thank you. Any questions? Representative Wildberger.
Thank you, Chair. I'm curious about what the costs have been for healthcare for inmates that are being charged from the private for-profit prison facility in Saguaro.
Yeah. Oh, you're talking about a general contract with Core Civic.
Yes.
Actually, this is Tessie Fernandez, BMO. The contract with Core Civic allows for a certain threshold, and after that, the Department of Public Safety would have to cover the cost. For the cost of hospitalization outside of Saguaro Correctional Facility, the Department of Public Safety is required to pay.
Do you know how much?
It's whatever the cost is to provide that care for that inmate that is being
I'm
outside.
curious to know how much additional over whatever is included in the contract that the state is on the hook for COVID response over the 2020 for inmates in Saguaro. Can you get that information for us?
Yes, we can give you the information of how much we have paid for COVID related expenses.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? If not, let's recess for decision making. Committee and Finance will come to order. We are doing decision making for the 2:30 agenda. First up, it is Senate Bill 806, House Draft 1. Recommendation is to pass as is. Any discussion? If not, please take the vote.
Members voting on Senate Bill 806 HD1, recommendation of the chair is to pass as is. Noting excuse members Eli and Caruso for this whole agenda. Any members voting reservations? Any members voting no? All present members vote aye. Chair recommendation adopted.
Thank you. Next up is Senate Bill 1384, House Draft 1. Recommendation is to pass as is. Any discussion? If not, please take the vote.
Members voting on Senate Bill 1384 HD1, recommendation of the chair is to pass as is. Any members voting reservations? Any members voting no? All present members vote aye. Chair recommendation adopted.
Thank you. Next up is Senate Bill 224, House Draft 1. Recommendation is to pass as is. Any discussion? If not, please take the vote.
Members voting on Senate Bill 224 HD1, recommendation of the chair is to pass as is. Any members voting reservations? Any members voting no? All present members vote aye. Chair recommendation adopted.
Thank you. Next up is Senate Bill 807, Senate Draft 2, House Draft 1, at the request of both the House and the Senate Education Chair. Recommendation is to pass as a HD2, inserting HSTA amendment and technical non-substantive changes and effective date July 1, 2021. Any discussion? Now, please take the vote.
Members voting on Senate Bill 807 SD2 HD1, recommendation of the chair is to pass with amendments. Any members voting reservations? Any members voting no? Recommendation adopted.
Thank you. Next up is Senate Bill 814, Senate Draft 1, House Draft 1. Recommendation is to pass as is. Any discussion? If not, please take the vote.
Members voting on Senate Bill 814 SD1 HD1, recommendation of the chair is to pass as is. Any members voting reservations? Any members voting no? Recommendation adopted, Chair.
Thank you. Next up is Senate Bill 808, Senate Draft 2, House Draft 1. Recommendation is to pass as is. Any discussion? If not, please take the vote.
Members voting on Senate Bill 808 SD2 HD1, recommendation of the chair is to pass as is. Any members voting reservations? Any members voting no? All present members vote aye. Chair recommendation adopted.
Thank you. Next up is Senate Bill 336, Senate Draft 1. Recommendation is to pass as a HD1, removing the dollar amount, which is the $50,000, and technical non-substantive changes. Any discussion? If not, please take the vote.
Members voting on Senate Bill 336 SD1, recommendation of the chair is to pass with amendments. Any members voting reservations? Any members voting no? All present members vote aye. Chair recommendation adopted.
Thank you. Next up is Senate Bill 60, Senate Draft 1, House Draft 1, relating to special number plates. Recommendation is to pass as is. Any discussion? If not, please take the vote.
Members voting on Senate Bill 60 SD1 HD1, recommendation of the chair is to pass as is. Any members voting reservations? Any members voting no? All present members vote aye. Chair recommendation adopted.
Next one is Senate Bill 1187, Senate Draft 2, House Draft 1, relating to emergency appropriation for public safety. Recommendation is to pass as a HD2, inserting the amount in their testimony, which is $6,006,000, and technical non-substantive changes, and making the date upon approval. Any discussion? If not, please take the vote.
Members voting on Senate Bill 1187 SD2 HD1, recommendation of the chair is to pass with amendments. Any members voting reservations? Any members voting no? Chair recommendation is adopted.
Thank you. Next up is Senate Bill 1102, House Draft 1. Recommendation is to pass as is. Any discussion? Representative McDermott.
I'll be supporting the chair on this matter as it will allow me to return to the octagon. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Okay, if not, please take the vote.
Members voting on Senate Bill 1102 HD1, recommendation of the chair is to pass as is. Any members voting reservations? Any members voting no? All present members vote aye. Chair recommendation is adopted.
Thank you. Next up is Senate Bill 1103, House Draft 1, relating to Review Oversight Committee. Recommendation is to pass as is. Any discussion? If not, please take the vote.
Members voting on Senate Bill 1103 HD1, recommendation of the chair is to pass as is. Any members voting reservations? Any members voting no? All present members vote aye. Chair recommendation is adopted.
Next up is Senate Bill 1053. This will be deferred. Next up is Senate Bill 1412, Senate Draft 2, House Draft 1. Recommendation is to pass as a HD2, blanking out the amount and technical non-substantive changes. Any discussion? If not, please take the vote.
Members voting on Senate Bill 1412 SD2 HD1, recommendation of the chair is to pass with amendments. Any members voting reservations? Any members voting no? All present members vote aye. Chair recommendation adopted.
Thank you. Next up is Senate Bill 350, Senate Draft 2, House Draft 1. Recommendation is to pass as a HD2, inserting a appropriation line with position and blank amount and technical non-substantive changes. I think we need to get a better handle on how much this activity will cost the department. Okay, any discussion? If not, please take the vote.
Members voting on Senate Bill 350 SD2 HD1, recommendation of the chair is to pass with amendments. Any members voting reservations? Any members voting no? Recommendation adopted.
Thank you. Next up is Senate Bill 1329. This will be deferred. Next up is Senate Bill 332, Senate Draft 2, House Draft 1. Recommendation is to pass as a HD2, removing the dollar amount and technical non-substantive changes. Any discussion? If not, please take the vote.
Members voting on Senate Bill 332 SD2 HD1, recommendation of the chair is to pass with amendments. Any members voting reservations? Any members voting no? All present members vote aye. Chair recommendation adopted.
Thank you. Next up is Senate Bill 788, Senate Draft 2, House Draft 2. This will be deferred. Next up is Senate Bill 1222, Senate Draft 2, House Draft 1. Recommendation is to pass as is. Any discussion? If not, please take the vote.
Members voting on Senate Bill 1222 SD2 HD1, recommendation of the chair is to pass as is. Any members voting reservations? Any members voting no? Recommendation adopted.
Thank you. Next up is Senate Bill 838, Senate Draft 1, House Draft 2. Recommendation is to pass as is, but we need to take a closer look at the language in conference. Any discussion? If not, please take the vote.
Members voting on Senate Bill 838 SD1 HD2, recommendation of the chair is to pass as is. Any members voting reservations? Any members voting no? All present members vote aye. Chair recommendation adopted.
Thank you. Next up is Senate Bill 1018, Senate Draft 2, House Draft 1. Recommendation is to pass as is. Any discussion? If not, please take the vote.
Members voting on Senate Bill 1018 SD2 HD1, recommendation of the chair is to pass as is. Any members voting reservations? Any members voting no? All present members vote aye. Chair recommendation adopted.
Thank you. Next up is Senate Bill 1138. This is deferred. Next up is Senate Bill 1144. This is also deferred. Senate Bill 2 will be deferred until Wednesday, end of calendar. Next up is Senate Bill 39. This will be deferred until Wednesday, end of calendar, next week, Wednesday. Senate Bill 866, Senate Draft 2, House Draft 2. This will also be deferred until end of calendar, next week, Wednesday. Senate Bill 142, Senate Draft 2, House Draft 1 will be deferred until next Wednesday, end of calendar. Next up is Senate Bill 828, House Draft 1. Recommendation is to pass as is. Any discussion? If not, please take the vote.
Members voting on Senate Bill 828 HD1, recommendation of the chair is to pass as is. Any members voting reservations? Any members voting no? All present members vote aye. Chair recommendation is adopted.
Thank you. Next up is Senate Bill 936, Senate Draft 2, House Draft 1. Recommendation is to pass as is. Any discussion? Not, please take the vote. Yes.
I think that I'm WR on this. I think there should be language giving Department of Health some wiggle room, language such as to the extent of available resources.
Yeah, I agree with that. Who's the labor vice chair? Okay, can you help us work on some language for conference? Okay, so with that, any other discussion? If not, please take the vote.
Members voting on Senate Bill 936 SD2 HD1, recommendation of the chair is to pass as is. Noting the reservations by Representative Kobayashi, any other members voting reservations? Any members voting no? All present members vote aye. Chair recommendation is adopted.
Thank you. Next up is Senate Bill 1156. This is deferred. Nobody showed up. Next one is Senate Bill 1194, Senate Draft 1, House Draft 1. Recommendation is to pass as a HD2, putting in the amount that public safety recommended, which is 3,342,000 or whatever that they said, and technical non-substantive amendments and upon approval. Any discussion?
About the $3,000.
Yeah.
300.
Yeah, $300. Approved. Okay, any other discussion? If not, please take the vote.
Okay, members voting on Senate Bill 1194 SD1 HD1, recommendation of the chair is to pass with amendments. Any members voting reservation? Any members voting no? All present members vote aye. Chair recommendation is adopted.
Thank you. Hearing is adjourned.
Wednesday.